something I've learned the last few months that has dramatically altered the way I look at relationships, friendships, business relationships, mostly personal relationships, I would say, especially any kind of meeting someone in the sense of having a personal relationship with them, mainly, I would say, put it lightly, especially the opposite sex, I would say, being single. Going through the material I went through, mainly Michael A. Singer, first I read the book Surrender Experiment, and then I'm living from the life of surrender or living a life of surrender course multiple times, 2 or 3 times I went through it. And then it kind of hit me the way it goes through it. I would highly recommend if you haven't read that book and went through that audible course, highly recommend it multiple times and start practicing. But the main thing about that is we get stuck in relationships, any experiences we have too much because we resist or we think, however, that it makes us feel is kind of like a permanent and something to do with us. Instead of we are experiencing something and that's creating something within us, or that thing, whatever that happened is creating an experience or a feeling within us. And that's because of our programming. He calls it samskaras. Samskaras is basically another way of saying impressions, life, things that get in within us, our programming. It could be within this life, but there's generations of impressions that can be in our DNA and all that stuff, according to even science, a behavior that can affect us, that gets us to react a certain way, get us to feel a certain way. So every person is different. For every person, 8 billion something people or 7 billion something people, every person reacts differently or feels a certain way, even ever so slightly different, with the same incident, same circumstances, react differently. That's because of however our programming is, however our experiences are, and whatever that particular incident creates within us. And if we get stuck in the thinking that somehow that's related to whatever that happened is all about us, then we get stuck in that whole thing as, oh, wow, somebody did this thing wrong. Or let's go, personal relationship, right? Let's say you have a friend or maybe a romantic relationship, boy or girl, opposite sex, you meet them, they make you feel a certain way, but maybe they'll move on, or they kind of, after a few days or a few months or a few years, whatever happens, they don't make you feel that way. That's all because we thought whatever way they made us feel in the beginning is all going to always be there, because whatever it created in us, we think that's going to be always the case. And then things come and things change, and we think, okay, that person is not doing that certain way. Or it might be they made us feel great and then they left, and then like we want that again. So now we're chasing that person. It could happen even in business situations, right? Business, somebody, you think it would be great business, and suddenly it didn't work out. And then we regret like it didn't work out. Oh, I wish the person, we did business with them, so on and so forth. Or friendship, right? We had maybe a best friend, but eventually things change. I've had, or for 20 years, I had someone very close. All of a sudden now, it's not there anymore. He fell into some things and completely, from a brilliant, one of the most brilliant people I know, to now completely wrecked his life. And it just wasn't there because I was trying to help him, help him. Eventually it became a drain anytime I talked to him. He was constantly looking for me to help him because I kind of moved on, went down to this journey while he was kind of going from this brilliant, highly successful person to complete total wreck. But eventually I had to move on because there was nothing I could do. No matter how much I tried to help, he would listen, but then go on the same path. So I haven't eventually had to realize there's not much I can do. I mean, I would love to, be his friend and be there to help him. But eventually, when the person is taking too much, but not doing anything, then there's no point. You have to let people go on their own journey. There's only so much you can do to help. Same thing with the relationship. Now I've realized, like, it has become a big, big freedom for me. I'm still not good at it. I still get stuck in it. It's a practice. Everything in life, everything I've learned now, it's a practice. You don't think you mastered anything. You always look to improve. And that's where most people get stuck. Even I get stuck. Like, oh, I got it. Now I'll be great at it. No, that's not how life works. Anytime you think you mastered something, life, universe shows you you're not. Peter Crone's favorite, one of my favorite saying is from Peter Crone: life presents you with circumstances to show you where you're not free. So I take everything that I come across that shows me my discomfort or anger, sadness, or wanting something when somebody or something is not going to be there as a lesson, as an experience to have. Now, obviously, if me going into meditation and experience certain things, now I understand no longer the body, mind, or what the brain, body, mind doesn't mean just the brain. That's what we think, but our gut, heart, there are so many nerves. Everything is thinking together. So whatever mind is saying essentially doesn't mean it's true. Or as Michael Isinger says, 100% of the time it's true. It's wrong. But the immediate thoughts that come, they're always wrong on the long run. What we feel, that's right. So there's a subtle difference. I'm not talking about feeling, again, there's a subtlety there in the whole feeling factor too. If something excites you to do something, I mean, somebody presents something, or you meet somebody and they excite you, and you feel like, this is a great person. That feeling is true. But at the same time, if the person leaves and maybe you never meet them again, whatever the case is, then your mind telling you, no, you got to go reach out, you need that person to feel that way. That's totally wrong. That's one, right? You never need anybody. You cannot, as much as we think we need somebody, is where we are slaves to that feeling or that person, because our happiness, our entire human experience, the experience the soul has, is dependent on us, not other people. As Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response lies the freedom. So you might feel a certain way, accept it, experience it, but don't get caught up in that wanting to have that feeling or trying to avoid that feeling. It's all good or bad. Doesn't mean that everything is right or you have to support something wrong. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is let the have the feeling, experience the feeling, but don't get stuck in that feeling. Similar to same with the people. Don't get stuck in it. Let's say personal romantic relationship, marriage, whatever the case is. If the person wants to move on, appreciate the experience. Yeah, you'll feel sad, heartbroken, whatever the case is. That's natural. Letting it be, let that experience be whatever it is, and understand there is a karmic cycle. If you don't know what karmic cycle is, there is a flow of things, or whatever universe is presenting situations, there's a sequence happening. So whatever you're supposed to experience, whoever you're supposed to meet, you will meet. There's no accidents in life. That's what I believe. Okay. If you believe otherwise, that's fine. That's up to you, right? But I've learned nothing happens in an accident. Either you're supposed to teach somebody something, or they're supposed to teach you something. And there is a debt, maybe, if, at times when I used to do favors, or I met somebody, I got along great and gave them some help, or whatever the case is, I used to think like, oh, I need to, hey, they didn't like stick with me, or they didn't keep the friendship with me, or let's say it's an opposite sex, I want them to date. They didn't want to talk to me, or they didn't want to be with me. There was all those thinking process I used to have stuck in that whole feeling, and the fact that, okay, I wasted my time. Now I no longer get stuck in that. It happened for a reason. Maybe there was a debt I needed to fulfill for this person, and my job was to help him, her, whatever the case is. And that's all there was to it. If they choose to remain, and if they want to be in that particular friendship, relationship, whatever the case is, then they will choose to be. If not, it's what's supposed to, that's how it's supposed to work. I was supposed to help them, or they were supposed to help me, and that's all there is to it. But that's a great, for me, a liberating feeling that at times it's still kind of hard to be or remember or practice that. But with everything, it's a practice. You keep practicing, you get better at it, more you get less stuck in it. Personally, it has been a big liberating feeling. Other than the family factor, right? Family, you kind of pretty much, family's family. Till this soul leaves this body, whatever the family you have, that's the family. But the friendships, relationships, those are all train passenger. They will be for a certain time, maybe they'll be for a lifetime, but nothing is permanent. Whatever happens will happen. So that's the lesson I'm learning. And I highly encourage anybody listening, maybe if you get it, I would highly recommend, first of all, going through Michael A. Singer's course, but if not, just practice that. Understand whatever person brings up things within you, that's basically your programming or samskara, as Michael A. Singer talks about it, bringing up those things within you. The impressions, the experiences that will bring up certain things, trigger some things, which you might not be aware of. So let it be, experience them, watch them, be aware of them, enjoy them. Even if it's a sad emotion, it's an experience, because everything is in yin and yang. Without good, there's no bad. Without sadness, there's no happiness. Without joy, there's no, whatever, sadness, so on and so forth, right? So hopefully this will help someone else going through that ups and downs with relationships, friendships, whatever the case is. Look at it differently and understand we don't have to get stuck in whatever that experience is. We can experience it and move on. That doesn't mean, again, like I said, that whatever that experience is, that somebody, if they did wrong, that you got to condone, you got to approve of it. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, learn the lesson, whatever the case is, and if it needs to be corrected, correct it. Or if the person was wronging many people, obviously, whatever legal action you have to take, you take, right? All that stuff is fine. But the main factor is not getting stuck in it, right? Move on. Whatever you need to do, do it. if it's there's something there to do it. If not, don't get stuck on, have the experience and move on. Well, I hope that my experience will help somebody else though.